let's get back into it. Okay, the men's race, Gregor, at Liege-Bastogne-Liege. It was, I think, what many of us expected. Pretty much the favorites from last year's Liege-Bastogne-Liege were right up there, with the big exception of Primoz Roglic, who really got completely worked over in the final, much like his teammate Marianne Vos did. We saw Marianne Vos dropping off over the attacks on the climbs in this final 20 kilometers to the finish, and same thing for the men's Jumbo-Visma team. Primoz Roglic just could not hack it when Mike Woods went to the front.
Yeah, and it was a combination of Ineos doing such a great team ride all day. We also saw teams like Lotto as well putting in the effort earlier on in the day. And Carapaz, a massive solo effort. And I thought at one point that he could actually hold that thing to the line, because we saw last year's Giro d'Italia champion Theo Gegenhardt doing such a huge amount of work. And of course, Kwiatkowski and Adam Yates was up there as well. And then we see that launch of Richard Carapaz on the Côte de la Forge, I think it's called there. But and those moves were catching off Primoz Roglic too. We saw him reacting to those instead of playing cool, which is what Julian Alaphilippe was doing back in the bunch. But really, Ineos really put everybody on edge, and they were racing an aggressive race, as he needed to, Michael Woods, the Canadian from Israel Startup Nation, because the team was doing all the work. It was never really getting at the front, Michael, doing the massive amounts of work on the front for Michael Woods, but they were always there when Michael needed to be in position, and then Michael responded with the attacks in the right times, because he wanted to blow the race apart and not bring it to a sprint.
I think that the trajectory that we have seen Woods on this year is boding very well for what we're going to see him do at the Tour de France. He just seems like he's getting better week after week. Keep in mind, it was in 2020 he broke his leg at Paris-Nice, and that set him back. You're kind of looking at the Israel Startup Nation's Tour de France team, and you have two really, really good climbers in the mix. Of course, it's Mike Woods and Chris Froome, but they've both been a little bit battered and beaten down in the last couple years. I'm not seeing the trajectory yet from Chris Froome, but I am seeing some really promising signs from Mike Woods. Going into the finish there, I was just replaying the 2018 Innsbruck World Championships with Woods and Valverde in the front group, because it pretty much played out the exact same, and I feel like Mike Woods must have been thinking about it, where he just could not get around Valverde going into this sprint finish. And I think that Woods was definitely aware of how good Valverde is in a sprint finish. I think that he tried to adjust his tactics a little bit, tried to get a jump on Valverde, but Woods, I think he knew in the back of his mind the entire day he had to get away on the climbs, and he just could not get away from the best climbers in the world, being Alaphilippe, Pogacar, David Gaudu, who was amazing, and Alejandro Valverde on that lead group. Woods couldn't get away from him, and he didn't have it in the sprint.
Yeah, and then, there was that one attack that he launched to form that group of 5, 13.5 kilometers out, and he did some other digs. He did a dig when they were heading into town, right through this dark tunnel, and Julian Alaphilippe was right on that. And let's just back it up for a moment, because, when they pulled back Carapaz, it was Davide Formulo riding for UAE Team Emirates that kind of set up the launch pad, as it were, for Michael Woods to do his attack. Formulo was bringing it back together for his team captain Pogacar, and Pogacar was right there when Michael Woods went. We saw this group of 5 go, and it was an all-star group. And Michael, we were on our little group chat with the man who has his name still on this show, Ian, and so we were all talking about what's going to happen in the sprint, because Michael Woods definitely out of that group, maybe just, along with David Gaudu, has the worst sprint. So we were concerned about having how Rusty Woods was going to try to win that race, and he gave it his all to try to blow it up before it came down to the sprint. And also we saw Valverde's rivals. Remember, Valverde was celebrating his 41st birthday on the day. No one's ever won the race on their birthday, I'm told. Valverde got stuck out of that final right-hand turn, stuck on the front, just where he didn't want to be. I think he had 900 meters there on the front, where it was Alaphilippe, really good race by Alaphilippe. You know, as I said before, he refused his instincts, didn't follow those early attacks by Ineos, and saved everything for the right time. And he was in the right position, almost got last wheel out of that group of 5, but instead it was Tadej Pogacar, the winner of the 2020 Tour de France. I think, what is he, 22 years old, Michael? You get the numbers there in front of you. So he had 5th wheel, and right there sitting on Julian Alaphilippe, going right into that final kilometer, a thrilling final kilometer of Liege-Bastogne-Liege, Michael.
Yeah, you know, hats off to Julian Alaphilippe. He raced conservatively. He raced within himself. And he raced intelligently, which is not what we always see him do. He waited for the right moves. You know, let riders like Primoz Roglic try to chase things down. As you said, it was really Ineos who was ripping things apart. Julian Alaphilippe, he looked pretty fresh in the finish. He looked ready for it. He looked capable, but it was Tadej Pogacar who was just the fastest guy on the day. And, you know, they were all very justified in putting old man Alejandro Valverde on the front in the final kilometer. I mean, that guy was... He was probably winning. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. We can go back and check this out, but he was probably winning monuments when Pogacar was like 10 years old. In fact, I'm gonna go fact check myself on this right now. See when Valverde won his first Liege-Bastogne-Liege. It was 2006, I think. Yeah, 2006.
I'm gonna bet. Yeah. So. What do we got here? You're doing the math. Pogacar's 22 years old now, and winning this race, he's the first Tour de France champion to win Liege-Bastogne-Liege since Bernard Hinault won in 1980. So it's big for him. And UAE, I mentioned Formulo, but we also had Mark Hirschi, who's in the team, and the team's really bolstered the team this year, also adding Rafael Maika. So the team's stronger than it was last year, heading towards the 2021 Tour de France, but it also pays off in races like this for Tadej, Michael.
Tadej Pogacar is looking very fearsome. I did just run the numbers. Pogacar was 8 years old when Alejandro Valverde won his first Liege-Bastogne-Liege, which is pretty incredible. So, anyways, I think that it's a victory in and of itself for Valverde to be up there. He has got to be happy with his placing. Pogacar is looking very fearsome for the Tour de France. Roglic, looking a little bit tired, I have to say. He is, you know, you can always kind of tell when he's attacking, when he's going off the front, when he's taking the race into his own hands. That's the Roglic we know. That's the Roglic who's firing on all cylinders. When he's finding himself on the back foot, fighting his way back, I don't know. He's going to have to take a little bit of R&R right now because he is definitely on the downswing, whereas riders like Mike Woods and Pogacar, I believe, are on the upswing.
Yeah, that's correct, Michael. I mean, if we, you're talking about how these people came out of the Ardennes Classics. Alaphilippe, he won Flèche Wallonne on Wednesday before this race. We must remember also Anna van der Breggen, the other world champion, the women's side, won the Flèche Wallonne. So it was a pretty good haul for Julian Alaphilippe. He won to win Liège, but he didn't get that. But he did get Flèche Wallonne. He was second in Liège. For Primoz Roglic, he's had a good run, and this is his last race in this first block, and his next race, according to what we're hearing, is the Tour de France starting on June 26th. So this is the end of this first block, and you could kind of see he was running on fumes at the end of the block here. Remember, he nearly won Paris-Nice. I think he had 2 stage wins there, and of course those crashes on the final stage ruled him out of the overall win. He won País Vasco, the Tour of the Basque Country, and then we saw him in Amstel Gold working his heart out for Wout van Aert. And then he nearly caught Julian Alaphilippe off guard there in Flèche Wallonne. So he's had a good run, but he was just running on fumes here in Liège-Bastogne-Liège. So a great time to take a break, but still Slovenia is still celebrating, as it were, because they had Pogacar on top of a monument there at Liège-Bastogne-Liège.